Welcome to Full Discourse. I'm Josh Elkin here with my trusted sidekick and friend, Hana Liu.
And your other friend, Eric Greenspan.
What up?
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
This might be the most comfortable couch I've ever podcasted on.
Ooh.
The problem is that like if I'd have to like do this. I'd have to be like lounging. Like
You're more than welcome to lounge.
Can I lounge?
Yeah, as much as you want. Just make sure
If I fall asleep in the middle of it, someone's
That's
got to wake
okay.
me up.
Well, our job is to make sure that this is a stimulating conversation to make you not fall asleep.
Okay.
Yes.
Listen, we're talking
That's
about you.
kind of my job too, right?
We're talking about you. You're not going to fall asleep talking about
No,
you.
that's true.
We know this already.
That's true.
For those of you who don't know, Eric Greenspan is a storied entrepreneur, restaurateur, chef extraordinaire, television veteran on Food Network and the likes. And
Keep
we've
going.
been
A&E, Taste Made,
yeah.
Iron
A&E.
Shaft.
Oh, that's right. Fix this kitchen.
Oh my God. We'll get into that. I want to know about Fix This Kitchen. Eric and I have known each other for a better part of a decade. And this is a long time coming. I'm appreciative of you coming over and
Happy
being
to
on
be
the podcast.
Yeah.
Right now, this second, in this moment, what are the things that are on your menu?
On my menu.
Not
like,
in terms of like serving, but like in your life menu.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, let's see. We had New School American Cheese is the focus.
What is that?
Like New School is a premium American cheese company that I started probably like 7 years ago.
Oh, that long ago?
Yeah, it took us that long.
Wow.
We've been in market for about a little bit over 2 years. It's fucking killing it. It's great. But that takes up, like I've learned that the problem with the founder is that like until you like we're gonna sell that, like I'm gonna have a yacht that's going to be American cheese colored and be called the SS Melty, and we're going to be partying on it, like the whole thing. But like,
I love that.
But until you get said yacht, like you don't make a penny. Like you just build value.
True.
So I basically had to like rework my like. I left VDC, Virtual Dining Concepts, to start it, when we launched it, and I basically had to find like 8 side hustles to become my like I combined side hustles to become my life in order to like be a responsible father and husband until the SS Melty. So there's New School American Cheese. I do a bunch of concession stuff. I did a bunch of stuff at Coachella. I plan on doing a bunch more stuff this year. I do special events. I do some consulting. I do TV. We do some brand deals and content and stuff like that. I've got the delivery only pop-up still, Duck, that we paused for a little bit that we're about to bring back. And I'm in the process of trying to get back in the restaurant business.
Speaking of the restaurant business, how many restaurants would you say that you've owned and operated?
I think it's 8 or 9.
Oh, I said
at some
20.
point.
Yeah. Earlier, he's like 20, 30.
Look, operated, like I operated Patina. You know what I mean? I didn't run it. Where I was like the executive chef and like kind of like, so there's, if you include all of those, probably about 15 or so.
That's a lot.
So let's take it back
Scars.
to yeah.
Deep
Battle wounds.
Yes.
wounds.
It's like it's like a hockey stick. When you play hockey and your tape gets all marked up from the pucks, that's what your chef.
That's my
career is.
soul.
Yeah,
That's my soul.
Let's bring it back to New School American, because that is definitely what you're the most excited about. I know this because you tell me all the time.
It's all I talk about.
But also, American cheese is such a controversial topic in the food world, especially in my type of food. Because
Which is crazy to me.
I love American cheese. I have always loved American cheese. Fun fact about American cheese: before I moved here almost 9 years ago, I'm from Canada, obviously. They
don't call it Canadian cheese.
It's Kraft Singles in American.
They don't call it American cheese.
There's no American cheese in Canada.
Wow.
I actually thought American cheese was just yellow cheddar cheese for the longest time. Then when I got here, I was told it isn't, and it's this cheese, and I was like, "Oh, Kraft Singles."
Yeah,
right. But it's not that either.
No.
So I use it all the time. I personally think American cheese is the supreme cheese for burgers and breakfast sandwiches.
I concur.
And my audience kind of like shits on that.
Haters.
And they're big time haters, which brings us to New School American cheese.
Yep. I brought you some of them.
Oh, really? Oh my God.
This backpack.
That looks like a heavy backpack.
Well, I didn't know what format you wanted. So
Well, what kind of format? Oh, hell
He
So
brings
this
out
is the OG.
Whoa. Is that the brick you said you ordered? Whoa.
amazing.
I noticed you've been using it, so I had to bring you a whole other brick.
I mean, yeah.
But then I don't think you've ever played around with this stuff before.
Wait.
Well, we got the slices.
Oh, hell yeah.
Big thick boys too, like 3/4 of an ounce.
I love this shit.
But this is the one that you haven't played with a lot.
No.
Because this
What?
doesn't even really exist. This is the shreds.
So do you?
Shredded American cheese. Like, have you ever even seen it?
I've only
Mm.
done it.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
only
you've-
done it.
That's look
So
at that.
do
Look
you-
at that magic.
Do you add anything to this to keep it like?
A trace amount of vegetable cellulose. There's no
Mm.
niamycin on it. Look, the whole thing about New School is that it's got the performance of American cheese, right? It melts probably even better than most American cheeses. Like, we don't have as much sodium citrate in ours as others do,
Mhm.
but it's made out of real ingredients, so it's about a
Mm.
clean label, right? So it's like it's where most American cheeses have, protein concentrates, not even real cheese, right? We use barrel cheddar, but we also use aged cheddar.
Mm.
And then where most use water, we use cream. And where most
Mm.
use oils, we use butter. And then where most, we don't have sorbic acids or phosphates, or we have sodium citrate because that's the magic that makes the whole thing work, right?
Mhm.
But then when it comes to our shreds, we really want to make sure there's no niamycin. There's no, like, you have to put something on
Wanna
it to
eat
keep
it.
it from caking up. But it's as clean as it gets.
So that's what I love about.
There's like 10 ingredients.
Well,
Less.
that
Less,
was
yeah.
the whole. That was how you sold it to me. That's
Yeah.
what you were originally saying. You're like all this okay, let's just move it back for a
It
second.
said turmeric and paprika and my mouth watered. I was like,
to color it.
American cheese. People think American cheese in general, not
Mhm.
New School American, just American cheese, isn't cheese.
Right.
But it is.
Ish. Depends. It depends on who's making it and what it's being made by. Because sometimes so look, American cheese, like 100 years ago, like, what was American cheese when it started? Like, when Kraft started doing it, it was actually a luxury item. It was a way of pasteurizing cheese so that you could ship it without, refrigeration and around this great land of ours. And I'll include Canada in that land just for,
Thank you.
Yeah, for
North America.
throughout North
The
America.
continent.
Correct. Yeah. The
It
entire
was probably a war thing too.
Yes.
You know, like get it over.
But it was way before that. It was way before that. But so it was like 100 years ago. And so it started with, he took cheese but you had to pasteurize it, right? You had to bring it to a boil. So the process of making American cheese was, you would take cheese, you would melt it down to bring it to a boil. But like any other emulsion, right? What happens with cheddar cheese when you bring it to a boil? Splits.
Yeah.
Right? It gets oily. It's
separates
disgusting.
the oil from the
Right,
milk.
it's gross. So you had to add a couple things to keep that emulsion together. So they added sodium citrate, which is like an emulsifying salt. But then you also had to get the balance of fat and liquid right. Like, just like a hollandaise, when it breaks, you have to get the balance of fat and liquid right. So they added fat, they added butter to it, and then they would add water or milk or something like that to kind of get that balance together, so that when it cooled back down, it stayed together. That's American cheese. That's the process of making American cheese. So American cheese is always processed because you put it under a process, right? Like, you pasteurize it. Now, it's also a processed food because it's got a bunch of fucking garbage in it. Because what happened for 100 years, like, wait a minute, like, once you put the sodium citrate in it, you kind of don't need like any of the other stuff. So cream became water and butter became oil. Like I said, they also stopped putting in, a lot of times they stopped putting in cheese. In fact, most manufacturers now, we had trouble getting somebody to co-manufacture ours because most of them use this like base that is like whey proteins and not even actual real cheese, of which they emulsify. Now, it still eats like cheese. Then they add like enzymes to it for flavors and different things to color it. But actually, a fair amount, I'm not gonna lie and say I know the number, but a fair amount of American cheese is actually not start with like real cheese.
Okay, so there's evidence to
There's
people's
things,
claims
yeah.
about American cheese being not real cheese. I only use New School, and New School
Is real
cheese.
This is not a commercial. I legitimately love this cheese. I have
Thank you.
half a brick in my fridge right now. Just
You got a whole lot more now, baby.
Yeah.
Let's get filming.
It's not gonna go to waste. Trust me.
We started this company for a lot of reasons, right? Because like I wanted to complete the circle of quality. Like, you care so much about the grind on your burgers, and people bake their own buns and they hand whisk their own mayos, and it's heirloom tomatoes, and then it's garbage commodity American cheese. So, like, that was part of it. But from a business perspective, there's a niche there. Like, nobody's ever tried to make a quality American cheese before because they haven't had to. It's always been a commodity and it's always worked. You look at, so we modeled the business after a lot of brands. Like you look at like Olipop and what they're doing to sodas, or
So
Sir
good.
Kensington's and what they did to condiments, right? And it's all been great. But what we noticed when we were looking at it was that those brands are good, but like I'm still gonna like, all things aside, like a Coke is better than an Olipop, right? Like Heinz is better than Sir Kensington's. Like they taste better, mainly because it's high fructose corn syrup and a bunch of garbage, and that's what they've taken out. So what we set out at New School is to not only be the cleanest label, but also be a better product than what's currently out there. So that's why we've got aged cheddar in there, right? That's why we color it with turmeric and paprika. That's why we take out all the garbage, because it's not enough for us to just have a cleaner label. It's about also being more flavor forward. It's about melting better. Like we have less sodium citrate in ours than any other American cheeses out there. Like most American cheeses will put in extra sodium citrate so that the cheese tables, like you'll notice, like it melts, but it keeps that corner that like McDonald's wants in their photos.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Like I want my like New
melt.
School, like bleh, like it gives you
melt.
a hug. It's like, it's like it's like cheese sauce.
I made a Tex-Mex chopped cheese last week, and it was
bomb.
perfect.
Looks so good.
It was amazing. You kidding me?
Yeah,
Thank you for inviting.
my friend Uncle Ron out in Philly, who's a big supporter of the brand, calls it Gucci Velveeta.
Ooh,
which is good. I can't use it.
that.
Like I can't use that as like a marketing term, but it definitively defines what it is. But like that's the thing, is like
it's haute couture American cheese.
Yeah, we wanted it not just to be like, oh, we're going to use real cheese. Like no, let's use aged cheddar in there too. Like let's give it some flavor. Let's give it some. It's got more salt in it than most American cheese does, because most American cheese has more sodium citrate. So there's sodium levels. So when we first ran it by the co-manufacturer in Wisconsin who's making it for us, they're like, great news. I'm like, what? They're like, well, because of your sodium citrate levels, you can market this product as a low sodium American cheese. And I'm like, who the fuck wants to do that? Like that's not the goal. Like we don't want low sodium. I'm like, well, then put more salt in it. And they're like, how much? Like, I'm talking to these like scientists.
No thrills here. They're trying to make the best.
Yeah, they're talking about science. I'm talking to these scientists like, well, how much should we put back in? I'm like, whatever amount you need to put back in to bring it right back up to the same sodium levels that everybody else is at. And what we've got is, and that's why it's so much more flavor forward than most American cheese, because like it's got salt in it, so you can taste the notes of the aged cheddar. It's
definitely the tastiest American cheese I've ever had, without a doubt.
I mean, some people think of it. Some people think of it more as a better performing cheddar than just an American cheese. Like it's not just like a cleaner, better tasting American. It's also like it's a better melting cheddar that won't break and get oily and nasty.
Yeah, no, it definitely does not do that.
Yeah,
it's also the best cheese for mac and cheese.
Correct,
in my opinion. It's perfect.
Did you see that reel that I did when I made that mac and cheese
recently?
Yeah,
like for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right before Thanksgiving. Yeah. That mac and cheese was naughty.
Yeah.
Well, and it was literally like I literally just took the noodles, I added a couple drops of half and half, and just a bag of New School, and just mixed it up, and get the mic right in there, and it's like,
oh, it's such ASMR.
Oh my god, is that the term? I still don't know the term.
ASMR,
man, it was.
What does ASMR stand for?
It was gnarly.
Audio simulated multisensory response or something.
It was definitely
that.
That's why she's here.
Yeah.
For the acronyms.
Yeah. It was definitely that. Yeah, no, for mac and cheese, it's the best.
It took you 5 years to get it to market?
Yeah. It took us 5 years. We first started trying to make it without sodium citrate. The goal is to make it a completely clean label, all natural product. And then we realized that like we were so, and we wound up getting a patent on like a new formula with this dairy scientist we worked with at South Dakota State University, and like this whole thing.
South Dakota dairy scientist.
Sounds official.
Legit.
And then we were having trouble scaling it up, and we realized in the time, like while we were trying to figure out how to scale it up, I was like, we're so focused on the sodium citrate, which is the only like non-clean sounding ingredient, which it's a totally clean thing. Like it's not, it's not ascorbic acid or anything like that, right? But like we were so focused on that we weren't focused on everything else around it. And we're like, you know what? Like that took us like 2.5 years. And we're like, fuck this. Like, let's throw the sodium citrate in there and let's just elevate everything else. Right. And then COVID came. And so like everyone was like, we can't make your cheese because we're trying to keep everyone's eating at home. Like those sales went, like grocery sales went through the roof. and it took a while for us to find somebody who would work with it. Like, look, every time you meet somebody in the American cheese business and you tell them the idea, they're like, why do you want to do that? They're like, I sent my kids to the University of Madison, University of Wisconsin-Madison, and they sent their kids to the University of Wisconsin-Madison on, commodity American cheese. Why would you make it better? Like, it took us a while to find somebody who was like, oh, that's cool. Like, we get it. Like, there's people out there who want that. So that was a big kind of barrier to entry too, but there ain't no more barrier to entries now, dog.
Yeah.
We have entered.
What, how did you come up with the name?
It's funny. We don't know. And it's the best. Like, I remember me and my business partner, Alan, got into, we even hired like this person to like come and like, we spent a day at one of our investors' offices where we had like this whiteboard and we were just like writing on the whiteboard. We had like 7, we were spitballing names. I didn't blah, blah, blah. And to this day, neither one of us remembers who came up with New School. And it's the best thing for our partnership because nobody can lay claim. Like, nobody can lay claim because, like, look, it tastes great, it performs great, it's an amazing product. Blah, blah, blah. The name is the shit. Like, New School like works. Like, it's a great name. And we still and so now we joke about it. Like, everyone, like, when the name gets brought up and we're on meetings and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, so glad I came up with that idea. Like, that's like our running joke. Like, each one of us claims it at a different time, but we don't remember.
Do you remember some of the other names?
No. It's like it was like walking through. It was like going to the light when you die. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just came out on the other side, and it was like, it was New School. It was the truth, and we had no idea.
It's a New Testament.
Yeah, exactly. We were reborn into a world of premium American cheese.
It works, man. It works. It's really good.
The best thing about it too is that like we're doing a really good job of kind of building the brand so that like people see New School on the menu and they're like, oh, that's that cheese.
Yeah.
Nice.
But even if you don't know that that's that cheese, just by reading the words New School American cheese on the menu, automatically says like, oh, this is different. This is a different American cheese.
Are you in stores?
We are dipping our toe in retail. We are very like, that's what this year's about. This year's about getting into retail. Retail, like, here's the deal. Like, food service, very easy. I've got people all over. I speak the language. Like, we've been able to penetrate, food service in a pretty big way. Just kind of me and my partner and a couple of consultants. Once we get into the supermarket game, that's what, like, look, Kraft Singles likes every single one of our posts on Instagram.
Oh, they just be researching.
Like, they be wanting to buy.
Yeah, they're like, hi.
It's Heinz, right?
It's Kraft Heinz. Yeah. And what that tells me is like, they don't have a problem with what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
The minute we start taking shelf space from them
Ooh.
and start taking market share from them in like retail, it's gonna be really sharp elbows. So we're being really careful about how we enter into the game. Because look, we want to get up to the plate once, we want to hit a home run, right? We're probably gonna start in the deli case. Yeah. Get it sliced off the block.
Boar's Head style?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, Boar's Head.
They make American cheese.
Yeah, but they're kind of fucked right now.
Why?
Right? Because of that liverwurst. Like, they had this big recall.
Jeff knows. I don't know.
Jeff knows
they
a lot.
They had a listeria recall. I think it was, this is the saddest part too. Like, I think it was because of their liverwurst, which is probably their lowest selling SKU like on earth.
Liverwurst?
But like,
Who
they
the
had to
fuck
like
buys liverwurst?
but they had to like shut down an entire factory that they are not able to reopen.
Yeah.
And like, apparently like their hold on
what is liverwurst?
I don't even know. I think it's like a sausage version of chopped liver.
Okay.
It's like, I think that's what liverwurst is. That's my guess as a Jew.
As a Jew.
I hear liver and I just think it's chopped liver in some way, shape, or form.
By the way, speaking of chopped liver, what was that restaurant in New York? The
Sammy's?
Yeah.
Sammy's Romania.
First time I ever had liver.
Oh, Sammy's
2016, yeah. 2015.
With the shot of vodka. I think they're bringing it back, by the way.
No,
like
it was red. I don't drink vodka, so it was red wine.
Are
they bringing it back? Dude, that was an institution.
You know what the best dish there at Sammy's was that people didn't get? Guys like you and me would get. The broiled sweetbread.
Oh, I was talking about the Verenicas that were amazing.
Oh my God, that place is so good.
Yeah.
I think they're bringing it back. It like burned down or closed or
I think
it was COVID. COVID got it.
Okay, anyway, so Boar's Head is under a listeria hysteria.
Okay.
So we're trying to move. We're trying to move into like right now we're in like specialty stores. Like we're like there's a cheese store in Boston called Formaggio.
Okay.
Right. They will slice and ship all over. We're in like De Bruno Brothers in Philly. We're at McCall's here in LA or Surface. So we're like in these like specialty stores and like certain the cheese shops that don't thumb their nose at us.
Yeah.
And actually want to make money. Like we're in those places. But this year we're going to make a more conscious effort to get.
And some restaurants use your stuff
What
too.
about-
I mean, no, a ton of restaurants use it. I mean, look,
Isn't it
Hattie
Jordan,
B's,
Beverly Hills Cheese Shop?
they don't use it anymore. They don't sell it enough.
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
Because it's too highbrow.
It's too highbrow for
They're
that
like,
place.
it's too snooty.
Right.
No offense.
But like
I've never been there yet.
like Hattie B's had never melted cheese on any of their hot chicken
Yeah.
before New School. And
They
now,
u-
and
they
now
use
they
it?
use it. Now they use
Dude,
it.
Hattie
Yeah.
B's.
Yeah,
we were
it's
just
a- it's
talking
a good
about that in my last episode.
But we're on the Benjamin Burger,
Mm.
which has been making a ton of
the
noise.
Yeah.
We're on the Daybird fish sandwich. We Melrose. We're Hexter
Oh,
Burger in
Daybird?
LA.
Wow.
I mean in New York.
Daybird.
Daybird is
Maylan's fried chicken sandwich.
went
Oh,
there?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
maybe
They have
you
a
were
fish
there.
sandwich that
Yeah.
uses New School. It's
And
unbelievable.
you can get-
Wexler's.
You can get caviar in their tartar sauce.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the
That's
place that
so
does
good.
that
Yeah,
fish
yeah.
burger
That's
there?
so good.
Okay.
So we're all over the country. There's places all over the country that you can find us.
Well, look, I mean, like, Sprouts sells its own American cheese.
Right.
Mhm.
They also have it in the deli counter. Vaughn's is my preferred grocery store for when I'm cooking, not for anybody, just to, like make for the internet. And they have, I think Sargento has an American cheese, maybe not, honestly.
Potentially.
But really, Kraft monopolizes it's not even called American cheese. It's Kraft
Oh,
Singles or
yeah.
Kraft Singles Deluxe.
Right.
Right.
Craft. Yeah.
It's not even called
Yeah,
American
yeah.
cheese. So you have that
It's called Deli Deluxe.
Deli
Yeah.
Deluxe. Yeah.
Which, by the way, that or Land O'Lakes was my go-to before I created New School.
Really.
Yeah, those are my go.
Land of the Lakes. I don't even know.
And Cooper Sharp every once in a while,
Butter?
though.
I know the brand. I
Butter.
just never,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think I've ever had
Yeah.
that.
I've only had their butter. Never had their
Same.
cheese.
No, it's all over the East Coast. It's a
Oh.
big.
Oh yeah, it's an
Uh,
East Coast thing. You had once told me that you were thinking about doing like a white American.
So
Is
we
that too
are.
controversial? It's not time for white Americans right
I
now.
mean, here's my deal about we will because people are demanding it. My answer to people about white Americans is always like, A, we don't see color.
Oh my
and
God.
What's funny is that like I think that white American. No, but to be clear, like I think that all jokes aside, I think that white American really exists because people have been searching for any halo of quality they could possibly find to justify using commodified American cheese. They're
Yeah.
like, oh no, but this stuff's white, and so it feels cleaner.
Yeah.
It's not any
Well,
better.
well, they're
racist?
saying there's no color additives.
Because there's no color added.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not. I see where you're going though.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. No.
a
No.
whole
You're
other
good.
reason not to do it.
Don't
So
do it.
I have a friend of mine that is a restaurateur in Canada, which is a good segue into my next question. But he owns I don't know, like a bunch of burger restaurants, and he does like a white American cheeseburger,
Right.
and it's not even white American. It's Kraft Swiss.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I'm actually working on a
Swiss.
processed Swiss because
Ooh.
I think I'm opening a deli.
You're telling me?
I
And
love that.
if I had my way, I would just melt American cheese, melt New
Mm.
School on the Rubens.
Oh my God, that'd be so good.
It's so good.
yeah.
Is it gonna be
But the
called New
people,
School
unfortunately,
Deli?
all the haters, like the people in your comments, will be like, "What do you mean I can't get Swiss cheese on my Reuben?"
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Well, I'll be damned if I'm going to serve somebody else's Swiss cheese." So I'm probably gonna have to wind up making a New School.
Mm.
We're gonna have flavors, but I want to do like real flavor. Like when we were in South Dakota State back in the day, we started bench shopping flavors from the beginning,
Mm.
and we came up with some really good. I came up with, I did a ketchup one, so it was like
Mm.
it was called the all-in-one. So it's like you don't have to
Ooh.
put ketchup on your burger, just put the ketchup American cheese on
So
it.
manly.
Save time. It was very
It's like
efficient.
a shampoo gel.
I'm not going to give you the best one on camera
okay.
because someone's going to take it because it's that good.
Mm.
The wildest one we did was called the Godzilla,
Ooh,
which was
teriyaki.
no, it was
Damn.
it was nori. That was good though. It was good though. It was nori, wasabi, and pickled ginger.
Oh, wait.
Sounds
You should make
funky
that
as
just
F.
for
Dude, on a tuna
oh,
melt,
that sounds so
I
good.
don't eat tuna.
I'll eat it.
on a whitefish melt,
Oh,
I would eat
on a
that.
salmon
fish
melt.
fillet.
I was gonna keep going to like the
Fish
fish.
fillet.
I just don't eat tuna fish.
You don't eat tuna?
No, I eat tuna, but
Canadian.
not tuna fish.
Oh, you mean like the
Can.
can? Yeah, but would you like take tuna and like poach it in olive oil till
No.
it's cooked? You wouldn't.
No.
So it needs to be like red for you.
But I would love whitefish.
You
Right.
have tuna carpaccio.
I eat tuna.
Okay.
No, he
wait.
eats rare,
But not cut.
and you'll eat
Like
seared,
seafood, I would eat ahi, seared ahi, for
right?
example.
But you won't
know?
eat it cooked through.
No.
Even if it was like super high quality and then like masterfully cooked.
It's
You've
just like
never had tuna mac and cheese? Are you okay?
No.
That's like some Midwest casserole shit right there.
It's so
she's
good.
she's from Diamond Bar.
That's the Midwest.
It's the
Of
Midwest of the
California.
five.
Yeah, exactly.
Middle
It's
of
close enough.
I don't know if you know this, but the 5 goes all the way to the east of the U.S.
I'm aware. Thank you.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
The
the
5 does or the 10? You're talking the 10.
Southeast.
I don't know.
Southeast. No, it goes all the way to the north. You go
Does
take
it?
the 5 all the way
Yeah.
to
I
San
don't know
Francisco. No?
any of these things.
Yeah, 5 goes up
I
north.
thought that was the one. All right.
5
Anyways,
goes up north.
San
The
Diego.
10,
The 5
the
goes.
10, the 10 goes to Florida.
The
That's right.
5 goes to Mexico.
It goes from
okay.
Mexico all the way through Washington, I think, all the way to Canada, I think.
Hey,
I love that.
speaking of Canada again,
See
you were
that?
telling me
Bringing
about.
it back.
You were telling me that it's hard to get your product into Canada, and I
Yes.
was telling you that the FDA equivalent in Canada, for example, there's a huge health in America is on everyone's like ears right now
Right.
because of the whole RFK
Yeah.
shit,
Yeah.
and there's a whole thing about Fruit Loops here versus Fruit Loops in Canada. The ingredient list is like half in
Yeah.
Canada, so there's like
Huh.
double the amount of ingredients in America to make the exact same product. Why
Right.
are we doing that?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And I was saying because the FDA equivalent is far stricter than it is. And you were saying that it isn't. It's
Well,
not about that.
No, it's not. I don't think it's not about that. First of all, like the RFK thing actually scares the fuck out of me for many reasons. But the main reason is that I'm worried they're going to force all American cheeses to be like New School. So I'm hoping the craft lobby is strong enough to allow them to continue to make shit
Interesting.
so that they don't catch up to me,
Nice.
to be honest.
Nice.
But no, I think the reason why Canada is that you can't import dairy that they make it, like if they make it in Canada, you can't bring it in.
Interesting.
So I can't bring, I would have to produce it in Canada in order to sell it to Canada.
Just for the cheese.
Yeah.
Just for any of the dairy
Because of the
aspects, the
milk.
cream and the milk.
Yeah.
You just have to find like a equivalent of your Wisconsin producer
in Canada.
Yeah.
But then also find like the volume to justify it.
which is very hard because Canada, as we know, is 1/10 of the population.
Yeah.
As we all know.
As we all know.
As I know.
Canada.
But it's a lot cheaper to produce out there because the dollar is so much stronger here,
Right.
even now.
Until our Fruit Loops get expensive.
Well,
Ooh.
hey,
You know, the minute we start cutting all the garbage out of the Fruit Loops, shit's gonna go
when I
through
was
the
a
roof.
kid, we used to go to Vermont because it's an hour away from Montreal, and we would like pack the car up with groceries because there's a bunch of shit you couldn't get in Canada that you can get in the States. And now it's happening the opposite. People from America are going to Canada to get the stuff that you can't get
Wow.
in America. It's
Like
flipped.
what?
Like Fruit Loops.
Like, well, no, but like, is what can you get in Canada like that you can't even get like an equivalent of?
But like, okay, for example, poutine gravy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you guys have like ketchup potato chips?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Right.
All dress chips.
Mhm.
Is that what they're called? All dress?
No, ketchup chips or ketchup chips.
What are all dress chips?
Think about it.
All the dressings.
It's salt and
Is
vinegar,
it?
barbecue, and sour cream and onion all in one.
Wow.
So
Really?
you would love this chip.
That sounds
It's an
so
amazing
good.
chip.
Wow.
It's my favorite chip.
I'm moving to Canada.
I'm just saying.
I like hockey.
Every now and again, they'll sell all dressed chip Ruffles here, and they'll put a big Canada maple leaf on it, and it'll say
course.
Canada's #1 flavor. It's limited time,
Ooh.
but they sell everything all dressed. So they sell
Mm.
Pringles all dressed chips, for example. Just a side note: if you want like real funky Pringles flavors, Walmart always has the best.
Always. I had a show on National Geographic called Eric Greenspan is Hungry.
I
Love
love
it.
this.
Lasted
it.
6 episodes.
Fine.
Um,
That's a season.
Hey,
we went
5 longer
so
than
it
a
was
pilot.
me and my old roommate from college, who's like this like screenwriter from Brooklyn, and they took us to the South, and we went hunting and fishing, and then like learned like people, and then went around the towns and the areas about like how people prepared the food. So we were in the fucking boons like all for like a month.
Please tell me you did
And
crocodile.
so one of the things that we did was we would go to Walmart and just walk around and like people watch. And every time we went to Walmart, there was a special Pringles flavor that we would always get that you couldn't get anywhere else. It was amazing. I don't remember. I think that was the first time I saw like dill pickle
Ooh.
Mhm.
Pringles that I think you can get now. But back then it was only at Walmart. It was like only in like Arkansas when you after a day of hunting boar.
I was in Walmart like 2 weeks ago, and I stumbled across 2 flavors I'd never seen before.
What'd you
Obviously, I
get?
got them.
Yeah.
One of them was Philly cheesesteak,
Ooh.
and the other one was chili cheese fries.
Mm.
Ooh.
Mm.
Both good calls.
Didn't have the chili cheese fries one because I'm waiting to do a recipe with it.
Right.
But the Philly cheesesteak ones smelled terrible, tasted amazing.
It was like beef bouillon and
Interesting.
cheese powder, pretty much,
Probably,
and
yeah.
onion powder.
Yeah. You can make your own.
I can make that
Yeah.
shit.
I
New
love
school
that.
American Pringles.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Hey.
New
I'm
school
in.
American chips.
I'm in.
Made with
Um,
real potatoes, okay?
So we were talking about well, I want to shift for a second just to like talk more about like why television and like how you're focusing more on the new school American versus television. But we had met on on TV back in 2015.
Your first show.
My first show ever. Well, my first
your first
competition cooking show. Yeah. It was Cutthroat Kitchen. It was me, Eric, Justin Warner, and Kelsey Nixon. Yeah. I was so terrified.
I was the defending champion.
You had won. So I was telling you, that I remember this so vividly because there was a challenge in the middle of the show where they basically put 3 of us on a Viking ship on wheels.
That's funny.
And Eric was so pissed about it that he pulled out his hatchet and chopped off the wooden thing so that he can actually basically the 3 of us had to be on this thing single file and go around this tight kitchen trying to cook. And Eric's like, F this. I'm taking my hatchet, and he breaks the entire thing so that he can put his hands through. And it was terrifying.
What I love how he was like, nobody's asked like,
what?
I like how you just casually thought. So Eric grabs his hatchet.
For some reason, he brought a hatchet.
I said, like, why didn't somebody else grab? Well, that hatchet was from Eric Greenspan is Hungry. Somebody gave me the hatchet to butcher an alligator gar. And I was like, this is such an amazing thing to have in your knife roll. Like you go into the kitchen, like my cooks, like when I ran restaurants, you like open up your knife roll and you roll it. Like,
hatchet.
My slicing knife, here's my paring knife, here's my chef's knife, here's my hatchet. And you just see their eyes like, just like you were terrified. They're like, why the fuck does Chef have a hatchet?
Yeah.
And like, is he going to use it?
It was a wild experience. He literally just went at this. We could see it it's on camera. If you find that episode of Cutthroat Kitchen, he's breaking the set. He's breaking the set.
Wait, so everyone has to be in their own Viking?
No, they had these like crazy challenges. And, like you would bid.
Okay.
You would bid.
You'd have a certain amount of money.
You would bid to give somebody else the challenge. Now, my whole thing about Cutthroat Kitchen, which I hope they bring back one day.
It was good.
I think they are bringing it back. Actually, they're bringing it back with Malarkey, which is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
My whole thing about Cutthroat Kitchen was, if you told me like $300 for you to cook with your hand side behind your back, I was like, you call me a pussy? Like you saying I can't do this? Like, deal. Let's fucking go. You know what I mean? So I wound up winning the first Celebrity Cutthroat Kitchen because I did not spend a penny. I did not. I took every single challenge everybody gave me. I never bid against it. So I just took it.
Oh, so just like, okay, do
I actually
this
have,
with your eyes
You're given
covered.
like $5,000 and you have to bid on something. Someone could outbid you. And if you have no more money, you can't bid anymore. So someone can.
Oh, I get it.
And I never bid.
So
I actually won the most amount of money you could ever win.
Wow.
On Cutthroat because I never bid.
Sick.
And then I tried to do the same thing again because I had such pride in that.
Yeah.
And so I lost. But I made it to the finals.
You made it to the finals. Yeah. It was close.
Yeah, they had all my shit frozen, right? Like in like ice cream.
Also funny. Like Justin Warner and Alton have this weird thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like,
Justin's good though. I like.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Great guy. Justin's the man.
Great guy.
He lives in South Dakota now.
Yeah, he's living a real sedentary life these days. Yeah. Comes every now and again to what's that show he's like? Where's
Tournament Champions?
There you go.
He's smart though because he's like, I could just do one season of Tournament Champions and then live in South Dakota. Yeah. And it's like, and I'm the richest guy in Sioux Falls. You know what I mean?
Sure. And he's very much like Alton's understudy.
For sure.
Like he wears the suit now.
For sure.
He's got like this like.
Always has been.
Always. He's always been that guy. I like him a lot. Very, very good. So that was Cutthroat. That was a lot of fun. We met there. And then I remember I was here and you were working at Madre? No.
Mare?
But
yeah, what I turned the foundry into with the back patio where you like
exactly
we walked through the refrigerator door.
Yeah.
Greatest restaurant I ever did.
Really?
Was never gonna make a fucking penny.
Yeah.
Because we had like 60 seats and nobody and we didn't have a bar. We converted like a closet into like a bar. And the environment was amazing. You had to walk through my grilled cheese restaurant, Greenspan's grilled cheese. And then through like this, like we found this like 40-year-old refrigerator door. And sometimes I'd be like on my computer, like doing office work and you'd walk through dry storage and then you like go through this refrigerator and then you're on this like amazing like patio.
Yeah.
And we tried to grow it. We opened up like 2 more of them.
Really?
Yeah, we opened up one in Silver Lake and we opened up one in Santa Monica and they just didn't hit. We're like, wait a minute. If we're doing this much with 60 seats and no front door and no private dining room and no bar, imagine what it'll do. But it was like all of those things is what made it so awesome.
Yeah. It was like
easy.
Yeah,
I learned more about
allure.
Food launching that restaurant than I ever learned again ever and I haven't learned since. And that's because my partner was like, here's the idea. First of all, we had we had a partner who we kicked out, who had spent all of the money that we had raised to open up a fine dining restaurant back there. And so we had like basically like a month to open up something before we got sued for not getting this project off the ground for the malfeasance of this other partner. So my buddy's like, my partner's like, I've got this idea. Here's what it is. He's like, it's going to be coastal European. These are the kinds of dishes that, like, he sent me pictures. These are, and it was the first time in my life that I was put in a box from a creativity perspective.
Right.
Like the Foundry, which was before that, was like schizophrenic because it was like, hey, Eric, do whatever the fuck you want.
Oh, you were working at the Foundry
I
also?
owned the Foundry.
Oh.
The Foundry was my first restaurant.
Oh.
So the Foundry on Melrose was my first restaurant. We then turned it into Mare.
Okay.
And at the Foundry was like super schizophrenic because it was like, I was like, 32 years old, a maniac, and nobody, and like, I was like, whatever I wanted to cook, I was going to cook. And so the place was like totally schizophrenic. Great things came out of it, but there was zero focus.
What was like the number one dish there?
The grilled cheese, raisin walnut bread, taleggio cheese, apricot caper puree, oven-dried tomatoes, arugula, and on raisin walnut bread, taleggio, the champ. That's what started. That's how I got into the whole grilled cheese game.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a grilled cheese guy. If you didn't already know.
I love grilled cheese.
I got a grilled cheese book called The
love it.
Great Grilled Cheese. Yeah. So Mare, I was like in a box. Now I'm going to fight my way out of any box you put me in.
Sure.
Like that's not, but by doing that, I learned, I was like, wow, I can make so much better food and be more creative when I have guardrails put on me. That's true creativity.
The focus.
Right. Like when I was in the Great Recession with the Foundry was when I learned that I was a great chef, because like when you can order Wagyu beef and caviar, like, and truffles, like, yeah, you're a great chef. When you've got $800 left in the till and you're going to Restaurant Depot to spend $798 of it, and you can come back and still do a 5-course tasting menu that's worth $85, then you're a chef. Right. And the same thing was with Mare for me, was like, that's how I learned how to be kind of disciplined in my creativity. It was like, put yourself in the tightest box you can put yourself into, because you're always going to fight your way out of that box. But in doing so, you fit a very kind of, you can maintain like a thematic through line that, that made that place so impactful.
What was the number one dish there?
Well, it was the shellfish bowls was what we kind of specialized in, right? It was like clams, mussels, shrimp. But the number one dish that everybody bought was two things. It was the grilled whole bronzino with the pomegranate glaze. And it was the citrus marinated skirt steak with the sea urchin butter.
Ooh.
Dude, sea urchin butter on a skirt steak is crazy.
I don't really like sea urchin. It's not my thing, but
you don't like a lot of fish, I'm learning.
I would like sea urchin butter.
The umami in the sea urchin butter was crazy good.
Yeah.
And that's, I was like, we have to, but again, that's where the creativity comes from. It's like, it is a coastal European seafood restaurant. I'm like, okay, cool. But like, I have to have a meat dish on the menu. What am I going to do?
Just for the listeners and viewers at home, where is coastal Europe?
Well, we kind of made it up.
Okay.
That was the fun part about it. Like, I'm so happy you asked. It was like,
I'm like, I don't know.
I was like, here I am talking about putting myself in a box, but that box was a made up geographic area that encompassed, it was like Spanish, Italian, Southern French, like just kind of everything that was like
coastal
that, like made up. It was really like Mediterranean.
Okay.
It was coastal European.
I actually
like
made Croatia.
One of the there's a little Croatian. One of the dishes that I came up with, that one of the signature desserts was like a trifle, right? It was like lemon pound cake and blood orange curd and macerated fruit and stuff like that. And they're like, what do you call it? I'm like, oh, it's called a trifolo, which is a word that I made up. And I had the waiters actually go to every table and be like, oh, we recommend the trifolo. It's a traditional coastal European dessert.
Oh my god,
trifolo.
That's so
sounds
funny.
great, right?
Cares, though?
Exactly. Coastal European.
Coastal European.
Sea urchin butter, trifolo.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
Urban Dictionary,
Yeah.
but it's Coastal European Dictionary.
Yeah.
It's not about the truth. It's about the conviction.
You know what's funny is that, look,
it's like bison steak.
you know what's funny, by the way? I think you're the first person who's ever even, like, throughout that entire process, we had 3 of those motherfuckers. Nobody once asked, what's Coastal European?
Really?
No one's ever asked.
It's for the people in the back.
Yeah. Smarty pants. Busted. That's closed anyway.
I mean, I went. It was good. I remember. I loved it.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
I ran that kitchen, me and 3 culinary students.
I remember seeing you with 3 dudes towering over you.
And the opening day, I was like, here's the deal. I'm going to cook everything. You're going to watch. Okay. And the minute you know how to do something, jump in and start doing it.
Oh, I love.
But if you jump in to do it, fucking do it right, or I'm going to take it back from you and you'll never get to do it again. And so like the first week, the kids would like just watch me. I banged out the whole thing. I was cooking everything. I set it up like a short order. Like the food was super elevated, but like the systems were short order. I was working on a griddle and a couple burners, and I cooked everything. And slowly but surely, they would jump in and do it. And within like the first like 6 weeks, I didn't have to work the line anymore.
Sick.
And I had these like 3 guys who were like right out of culinary school who had never worked anywhere else, who are still to this day like gangster line cooks.
Really?
It was a very revolutionary way of training people, but it worked.
Yes.
Did you go to culinary school?
I did after I started cooking. My first restaurant job was the Cafe Med up in Berkeley when I was going to college.
You went to Berkeley.
I went to Berkeley, studied business.
This guy.
Wow. Business. Yeah.
Studied
Business
administration.
ethics.
It's funny. My wife now, when we hang out with my college buddies, we're all like
Business.
hedge fund managers,
Yeah.
like super wealthy dudes, and she's like, "Did you take classes with Johnny?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." Huh? Oops. Sorry, passion. But I was a short order cook at a cafe. I was a short order cook at a cafe.
Which sounds like a lot of fun, by the way.
I wound up
It
running
does,
it.
yeah.
So I ran that place full time while I went to school. And then I told my parents. So I applied to the business program. It was the #1 business school in the country at the time, undergraduate. It was very hard to get into. I didn't get in the first time. And I was like, here's what I'm gonna do. Because I told my parents, I'm like, I think I want to go to culinary school. They're like, no, you gotta graduate college first. I'm like, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take all business school classes. Right. And then when I apply the next semester to get in and I don't get in, I'll be so far behind that they have to let me drop out.
Ooh.
Is that what you did?
No, I got in.
Mm.
and so I stayed.
No,
But I kept wanting to go to culinary school anyway. And my father, I remember my father, he's like, I had this like strategic planning and like a strategic planning professor class, right? And the dude was like it was great because the best part about Berkeley is the outside of the box thinking that they encourage throughout all of the classes and all the stuff. Like that's what they do. They teach you to think outside of the box. And it's not always liberal, it's not always conservative, but it's always outside of the box. Like that's what they encourage there. And I remember my father was like, to convince me not to go to culinary school, he's like, you should talk to your strategic planning professor because that's what he does. He does strategic planning. I'm like, great. So I go to talk to him. I'm like, this is what I want to do. And he's like, you really want to do it? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you should fucking do it then. And I remember calling my dad. I'm like, Professor John told me to go to culinary school.
That's so funny.
Biggest mistake.
He was just sitting there going, that's
So,
out of the box.
So where did you go to culinary school?
I went to the Cordon Bleu in Paris.
Ooh, in Paris.
Yeah.
Well, my roommate in college, my best friend, Matt Strife, shout out, is half French, and he had an apartment in Paris, and he was moving there for the year because Dad was like, when you get out of college, go to France for a year, just to, So I was like, yo, can I come? Like I didn't even research culinary schools. I just knew the dollar was strong, so it was cheap.
Yeah.
I knew that the Cordon Bleu, you could split pastry off, so you could pay for half of it and just do savory.
Oh.
I had no interest in doing pastry.
Yeah.
It was only a year long. I had a free place to stay in Paris for 3 months. His dad was like, you can go, but you can only live with Matt for 3 months and then you have to leave. So I went to Paris. I upped and moved to Paris. My buddy Matt, who spoke French, left me alone for like the entire month of August. I didn't speak any. I was like, I'm going to learn French. Don't worry about it. Just go on your trip.
Yeah, right.
Went completely fucking like bonkers. Couldn't communicate with anybody. Almost lost my mind, but wound up kind of learning French. Went to culinary school. And then his father came in for Christmas and I cooked him dinner.
Oh.
And he let me stay.
No way.
I love that.
That's an awesome
I
story.
love that.
Oh, and I changed the voicemail message on the answering machine was me in French
Wow.
saying leave a message. So when his dad would call, it was me speaking French. He was like, oh, okay.
Oh.
Greenie wants in.
Wants in. That's
You
so
proved
nice.
yourself.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
proved
yeah.
You
myself.
earned your keep.
But yeah, thank
I
God.
love that.
Thank
Oh,
God.
Seriously.
That's so
But yeah,
nice.
so I did a year in Paris and then I cut my teeth in New York. So
Right.
most of my restaurant experience, except for I did a 6-month stage at El Bulli in
Yeah.
Spain.
Farron
For Adrià.
is like the
You don't know
best
El Bulli?
restaurant ever.
The guy who started molecular gastronomy?
It's the best
El
restaurant
Bulli? You don't know El Bulli?
in
Oh
the
my
history
God,
of
bro.
restaurants. EL and
Where is
then
The most influential restaurant in the past 50 years.
yeah,
What? Where is it?
It's closed now.
yeah.
It's in Spain.
Oh.
Yeah.
El Bulli. Look it up.
Yeah.
We'll talk. You're gonna You'll trip out on
freak
this stuff.
yeah.
You actually, I don't even know if you would freak out anymore though. Like you would freak out 15 years ago
Yeah.
when you saw,
It might
like,
be
what the
different
fuck
now.
is this guy doing? Like hot mayonnaise and like they do like molten
Mhm.
center shit. Like
Yeah.
so many molecular gastronomy techniques, they all came out of El Bulli.
I love that in a short 15 years, like the culinary field is so vast now.
Oh,
Mhm.
correct.
It's crazy now.
Well, I mean, information's easier to get,
Yeah.
which I think is a plus and a minus, to be honest with you, because like I think like when I was at El Bulli, it was very interesting. So I was working for Alain Ducasse at the time,
Mhm.
and they took, typical French. They took like 2 months off for the summer, and so I went. I went to El Bulli, and those restaurants, like their philosophies are diametrically opposed, right? Like
Mhm.
Ducasse is like classic, pristine French, and so Ferran knew that a chef from Ducasse was coming to work with them, and so he was interested. He's like,
He was
what?
like,
That doesn't make any sense.
"Yes."
And then I roll in with like sagging jeans, speaking like Mexican dishwasher Spanish.
Oh, I love it.
And like, hey, and he's like, and so he would call me Ducasse. And he'd be like, hey,
Oh.
Ducasse, go, ven aquí. And we sat down to eat lunch together once. And we don't have a relationship. Like he doesn't, I went to one of his book signings a couple years ago. He does not remember me at all, but I remember this. We sat down and I asked him, I said, Chef, can I ask you a question? I'm like, all these people, because it's like the Tower of Babel there. It's like people from all over the world working in this kitchen to learn this stuff. And I'm like, all these people come from around the world to and your food is so unique. And all these people come from around the world to learn your techniques. Are you worried that it's going to water down what you do? I said this in Spanish, probably not that concise. And he told me, he said, all of you come here and ask how. Very few of you come here and ask why. And I think that that's my point to that, is that a lot of people are learning a lot of knowledge these days, just like online and like learning, watching videos and stuff like that. But I think that like really learning how to do something isn't reading a recipe, it's doing it
Mhm.
over and over and over again and really repeating it. I think that what people lose these days, what I'm lucky that I was like from that, like I was like the tail end of the last generation of cooks. So I worked for Alain Ducasse. I worked for, David Boulay. I worked for, for Ferran Adrià. I worked for Joachim Splichal. And when I worked for them, like I spent my knowledge doesn't come from scanning the internet and like reading books. My knowledge comes from like literally like in the trenches of working in these great houses. And I think that like there's a great part of the information out there that everybody can learn so much so quickly and learn about different foods. Like there's so much information, but I think that it keeps people from putting in the work that you need to do to really become like a honed, talented chef, because you need that honing to be able to create your own creative voice, I think, at least in a refined way.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah,
profound.
I love that.
That is profound. Everyone asks
I feel like Will Ferrell, like in the old school, like after
I just
debating,
blacked
like
I just
oh,
blacked out.
that's how you debate.
No, that's honestly, that is it makes me think about my style of cooking, because I obviously am an internet chef,
Right.
and I've learned most of my stuff off of the internet, but the most valuable things that I've learned is from doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't ask why enough. So I think that I'm going to take that.
Yeah.
And ask why a little bit more.
It's super important.
Yeah.
But like, to be honest with you, like the stuff that you cook is like from your brain.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
just got a sick brain who does
You're just like
and,
Einstein,
like, you've got an intellectual and artistic curiosity
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
that is very few people have.
Well,
And that will take you, it has taken you, but will continue to take you into places that most people won't ever go, because you're always like, oh, what fucking did that?
that's why I do it. And I tell Jeff, who's basically here more with me more than anyone else is when I cook, is it's not like why I'm doing this. It's I need to do it to see if it works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
And that's why,
curiosity.
yeah. And that's why
Curiosity is-
That's
you
why
always
you're
understood that.
That's
why
how
we
I
go-
am.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, like a lot of when my wife says, like, didn't you go to the same business school classes as all of your rich friends? And I always talk about when people say, like, why did you go into cooking? I went into cooking for that.
Right.
I went into cooking because I was like, I want to make shit hard.
Mhm.
I want to make sure I want to like, it doesn't make it's not enough for me just to do something that's easy. I want to fuck with things and I want to see it and make them work and like have them try to break me and then conquer that.
Yeah.
That's that same mentality that you have with food. You're like, can I make this? I don't know. I've never seen anybody make it. Oh, no one's ever done this? Okay, let's do that.
I
Do you know how
love
many
it.
times I
I
cook
was gonna say Greenspan fucks hard.
Greenspan does fuck hard. For sure.
How many times I'm cooking and I'm making something for the first time and I look at Jeff, who's the only one with me, and I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna work or not. And he's like, okay, Josh, you said that a million times. Always works.
I do that on TV.
Yeah.
When I compete on TV, like
Oh my
I never
gosh.
cook
Fun.
anything that I know how to do. Like
Yeah.
well, I do Guy's Ranch Kitchen. If you ever watch the old episodes of Guy's Ranch Kitchen that I'm on, the producer's always like, have you ever made, like, we'll stop like mid shot and be like, have you ever made this before? I'm like, no. He's like, you're on fucking national TV. You're cooking something you've
That's
never
the
made before.
fun.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's good TV, right?
is
Like,
good
it's
TV.
good TV. Like,
Yeah.
if it works, it's great. If it fucks up, it's good TV. Like, what do you want from me?
When we were on Cutthroat Kitchen, I don't know if you remember this. You probably don't, but like the first time we had to run to the pantry to get everything, I did it without my basket. And Alden's like, okay, cut, take it back, Josh. I'm like, oh, that's good TV. He's like, I'll decide what's good TV.
Oh,
I'm like, ooh, okay.
Alton.
Killed me.
I
Um,
watched your Iron Chef episode last night with
Oh, mine?
Bobby Flay.
Young me.
It was so funny. It was good. I was like, what is happening? Goose is crazy.
So funny story about that. So usually on Iron Chef, I can't divulge that. Let's put it this way. I found out with 10 minutes left.
Mhm.
Like there's a part in that if you watch really closely, like I go up to my sous chef. By the way, I had like Doug Saltis was my sous chef. I don't know if you know who he is, but like Asador Bastion and Andros Taverna and Manu Manu, like probably he's my mentor. I consider him the best chef in America.
Yeah.
So look into him, Doug Saltis. But he was my sous chef. Like I had a squad with me. So Doug comes up to me with 10 minutes left. I wasn't organized enough to have like told my cooks like what none of them had ever had any idea like what the dishes were gonna be except me. And I'm like, just cook thighs and cook legs in the pressure cookers. And I go up to him like, I need the thighs, I need the legs. He's like, we got a problem. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, the pressure cooker didn't work. Like it didn't connect on the induction.
And they thought it was the whole
Wow.
time.
And he thought it was running the whole time, but it wasn't.
Oof.
And then it's like, they're like 10 minutes. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, cook everything. Necks, hearts, livers, anything you can find, cook it and just give it to me on trays. And if you watch me plate at the end of that Iron Chef dish,
Oh yeah, 10 seconds left. I was like,
I black out. I do not remember the last 30 seconds, but I'm just like grabbing shit. And I like literally like one of the dishes that was supposed to have legs wound up having hearts. And one of the dishes that was supposed to have thighs wound up having like crackling and
they loved
Yeah.
that.
I remember like coming to when they're like drop your spoons and I come to and I'm like, first thing I did was count my dishes. I'm like, do I have 5? And I remember my sous chef Tommy came up to me and he's like, puts his arm around me. He's like, looks pretty fucking good. And I'm like, I look over at Bobby's plates and I'm like,
yeah.
I think we fucking got this.
Did you end up
Oh,
winning?
smoked him.
I love that. Because
Bobby
it's
Flay
rare
made
that
like
the
a-
challenger
yeah.
wins,
Yeah,
you know?
smoked him.
He did like
Bobby
a
even introduced me when he
crazy-
introduced me to Mario Batali the next year at some like industry party. He's like, Mario, you know Eric? And he's like, no, nice to meet you. And he goes, this guy smoked me on Iron Chef.
Yeah.
Like he introduced me as I was like, that's very cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
There's these two chefs that don't ever bond well, and they're like bonding over your dish. And then when they get to Bobby Flay, they're like, no flavor. Goose
wanna
meatball.
watch
That's
it.
it.
How long ago
And
Do you
was
it's-
remember Andrew Knowlton? He was like on Bon Appetit and stuff like that. He was one of the judges.
The glasses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
served him I did a grilled cheese, right? With
Ooh.
goose liver
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why I
and,
was
and,
like,
and
grilled
blue cheese. And it was like an olive currant tapenade and some
Yes.
arugula on like brioche. And he takes a bite out of it and he goes,
I think that's the best grilled cheese.
this might be, no, he said, this might be the richest thing that I've ever eaten.
Mm.
And I just looked at him and I said, get to know me.
I love that.
Well, listen, with that, we're going to end, but I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for
I think-
having me,
I
man.
think we all got to know
Congrats
you
on
a
the
little
pod,
bit
by the way, guys.
Oh,
It's
thank
awesome.
you.
Oh, thank you so
thank
much.
you.
In a world of food podcasts that can get pretty convoluted, I think you guys are doing a great job. So
Yeah,
appreciate being a part
that
of it.
makes
Thank you.
you
His
should-
parents love me. So.
Yeah, my parents are big. My dad is her biggest fan.
that
you
helps.
know?
It helps.
It definitely
It
helps.
helps.
Where can we find you and what are you doing?
Best place to find me is probably Instagram
Yeah.
at Chef Greenie.
Yeah, there we go.
You know,
Follow
then,
New
you know,
School.
and then
At New School American
at
Cheese.
Eat New School. At
Mhm.
Eat New
At
School.
Eat New School.
Yeah,
Dude, thank you so much
yeah.
for coming
My
on.
pleasure. Great to be
Appreciate
here.
Thanks.
Bye, America.
Bye, everywhere.
Bye everywhere.
Bye everywhere.
Bye the world.
And Canada.
Full Discourse is a podcast hosted by me, Josh Elkin, produced by Diane Kang, Melissa D. Montz, and Diamond M Print Productions. Camera operator Jeff Liu, post-production sound by Coco Lawrence, production assistance by Melanie D. Watson, and music by me.